Welcome back to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a fascinating, frankly game-changing framework for environmental stewardship from the Iron Covenants Masterclass Part 5. We're going to look at exactly how meticulous geological study and rigorous field reconnaissance are actively deployed to enforce industrial accountability out in the San Juan Basin. If you've ever wondered how on-the-ground investigative science actually translates into real-world environmental protection, well, this is going to be an incredibly insightful deep dive.
So, here's a question to kick things off. Why on earth would we wait for an environmental disaster to happen when we could proactively prevent it? It sounds obvious, right? But the source document challenges the entire status quo of how we usually handle environmental oversight. Think about it. So often, institutional oversight is entirely reactive. People literally wait around to observe a disaster, and only then do they try to respond. But the Iron Covenant frames environmental stewardship through a completely different, highly observational lens. They treat it as a matter of high-stakes community security, because at the end of the day, you simply cannot protect a community if you don't intensely understand the very ground it stands on.
Okay, let's jump into Section 1, defining environmental intelligence and its core philosophy.
The masterclass draws a super stark contrast here. On one side, we have reactive institutional oversight. That's the flawed standard we just talked about, where authorities wait for something like a sand facility to completely break down before taking any action. But on the flip side, we have proactive environmental intelligence. In this model, operators function as environmental reconnaissance officers. They're the boots on the ground, actively hunting for hazards and gathering strategic intelligence long before a catastrophic incident even has the chance to happen.
Moving right along to Section 2, inverted topography and decoding the basin.
Now this is where it gets really interesting, because geological science is deployed here as a highly specialized tracking tool. The San Juan Basin features this wild geological phenomenon called inverted topography. Basically, this happens where ancient riverbeds have eroded over thousands of years and essentially flipped to become the high elevated mesas we see today. By reading these ancient folds of the land, operators can accurately map out exactly how water currently flows through the basin. This is absolutely critical intelligence, because it lets them pinpoint precisely where toxic industrial runoff is most likely to collect.
And it goes even deeper than that. Think about lapidary, the art of cutting and polishing stones. Well, here, it's transformed from just a casual hobby into a literal forensic science. Operators specifically identify and collect local stones out in the field, things like quartzite and jasper. Then they put them through a professional 4-stage tumbling and grinding process to analyze the structural integrity and historical composition of the soil strata. They are literally reading the deep history of the basin through its rocks to track long-term land health. How cool is that?
All right, Section 3, field expeditions and missions in the basin.
So when these operators head out to historical locations, like the Largo Canyon pueblitos or Liberty Park, they aren't just going for a casual hike on a Sunday. These are highly structured missions. They use professional digital photography and video to document the exact state of these historical sites, actively hunting for any signs of vandalism or illegal industrial encroachment. They operate with a super strict leave-no-trace discipline to preserve the geological record completely intact. Plus, there is a massive emphasis placed on site security, knowing exactly where the public and private property lines are so that their reconnaissance operations remain 100% legally bulletproof.
Which brings us to Section 4, the recon loadout and the tools of the trade.
To actually execute these missions, operators take a standard field kit and basically upgrade it into a mobile laboratory. We're talking high-tech gear here. They deploy sensors like Geiger counters and handheld air quality monitors that specifically track dangerous PM2.5 and PM10 particulates. Aerial drones and all-weather write-in-the-rain notebooks guarantee bulletproof documentation, while handpicks and sample bags allow for that vital laboratory evidence collection. And because these operators are often working way deep in dead-zone canyons with zero cell service, satellite messengers like the Garmin InReach are absolutely critical. It's about basic survival for sure, but also the ability to send rapid reports from anywhere.
Next up, Section 5, industrial oversight and enforcing accountability.
Here's the thing, the Iron Covenant doesn't just collect all this amazing data to go file it away in a drawer somewhere. No way! They act as a proactive external oversight body. They take those precise field observations and measure them directly against strict safety and environmental standards set by OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and the New Mexico Environment Department. They're taking the gritty, unvarnished reality out on the ground and comparing it directly to the letter of the law.
The source document actually calls this the evidence chain.
Let's say an operator spots a violation out there. Maybe they see excessive silica dust blowing right off an industrial sand facility. That's step one. Immediately, they lock in high-resolution imagery and exact GPS coordinates, building immutable, time-stamped event logs. All that meticulously gathered data is then funneled straight into a formal evidence-based complaint. By following this protocol, the intelligence becomes legally bulletproof. It results in a report the state simply cannot ignore.
And that leads perfectly into their core operational mandate, their command intent, which I absolutely love. It goes, if an industrial facility thinks they can cut corners at the expense of our children's lungs, they will find an Iron Covenant report on the governor's desk. It's a really powerful statement, right? It connects all that complex geology, the lapidary work, the high-tech sensors, right back to the ultimate mission, proactively protecting the health and security of the local community from negligent industrial practices.
So the operators detailed in this document have committed to knowing the rocks, knowing the water, and knowing the law inside and out just to protect the San Juan Basin. They flat out refuse to wait for a disaster to respond. And honestly, it really makes you look at your own local environment differently, doesn't it? If proactive environmental intelligence is the gold standard for true community security, well, who is proactively watching the ground you stand on? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today. I really hope it sparked some curiosity for you about the incredible intersection of geology, technology, and real environmental accountability.